Hilldale City Board meeting, or more properly, council meeting. We'd like to welcome all of you here, and I think we're going to have an enjoyable time here tonight. This is probably the biggest city council meeting we've ever held. In fact, this is probably just a ploy to see how big of a city council meeting we can get. We'd like to welcome all of you here. To begin with, we'll ask Harold Piney to open with a prayer.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads before thee and opening of this entertainment. And we pray, Father, for your Spirit, your influence to be with us, to help those who perform and do their parts, that they will do them well, pleasing you before you and for themselves. We thank you for the opportunity to live in this day and time, the privilege we have of serving the holy priesthood in the earth. And we pray that our labors and our conduct and the words that we speak will be in harmony and in support of your priesthood. Please bless President Jeffs with every blessing he needs to do his work, especially with good life, health, and strength, and the energy of mind and body. And we dedicate this time, this hour of rejuvenation, entertainment unto you. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
The first thing we always have to do is accept what we did last time. And so we'll need a motion to accept the minutes. We have a motion to accept the minutes of our last board meeting and a second. City Council. You see before you here one of the finest city councils in the country. One of the two finest city councils in the country. And these men have served for many, many years, all of them, and done a superb job. Ruth is a secretary for Hilldale City, and she is going to present and introduce each of these members of the council. And to begin with, I'm going to introduce Ruth. She's an excellent secretary for the city and has done a lot of good work for us. Ruth Barlow was born on November 14th, 1938 in St. Anthony, Idaho, to J. Marion Hammond and Gladys Marie Smith Hammond. She first moved to the Short Creek Valley when she was 4 years old, attending the 1st through 4th grades at the old Short Creek School. She completed her high school education at East High School in Salt Lake City in 1956, then went on to receive an advanced secretarial degree from the Henniger Business College. She has worked for First Security Bank, a real estate company, 2 law firms, a finance company, and an architectural firm. She married Alvin Barlow in 1958, and after he completed his degree from the University of Utah in 1963, they returned home to Short Creek. When Alvin began his school career at the Colorado City School, Ruth taught at the Colorado City Academy and for the Mojave Community College. Before coming to assist Hilldale City in their secretarial work in 1986, she served at the General Supply Company for 13 years. She is also the Justice Court Clerk for Judge Walter Steele. like to introduce Ruth Barlow. From here, we will follow in the sequence of the agenda, and Ruth will introduce each of the council members in the order that is on the agenda, and each of these will perform, or their families will perform for us. So Ruth will take it from there.
Before I go ahead with the information concerning the mayor, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation for the privilege I've had of working with such a dedicated mayor and council. It's been most enlightening to me to learn of the tremendous effort that it takes behind the scenes for every little bit of progress. It has sharpened my sense of purpose and commitment to do my part to help build our beautiful city. Now I'd like to tell you about our mayor. David Kilgore Zitting was born on June 23, 1941, in the Mill Creek area of Salt Lake City, Utah, in the home of his father, Charles F. Zitting. His mother is Bonnie Kilgore Zitting. He spent his early childhood living with his grandparents out near the point of the mountain, not too far from where his father was serving several years in prison for his religion. He graduated from Jordan High School in 1959. Shortly after this, he went to Fort Ord, California to basic training, and then to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, specializing in forward reconnaissance survey. He served in the Utah National Guard for 6 or 7 years and was also in the military police. He came to this area in 1975, living at the Buckhorn Ranch near Parowan, Utah for a few years, and then came here to Short Creek Valley in 1978. David has served as the mayor of Hilldale since first being elected in 1986 and has been very active in all the major improvements since that time. Some of the projects include the water and sewer systems, the Maxwell Park development, home improvement projects which have helped to remodel a dozen or more homes, the new fire station, the roads and streets, and other projects too numerous to mention. He has been a responsible and conscientious worker all his life. David has been a moving force in moving our town to third-class city status. Our thanks and appreciation goes to David for his great work and energy for the benefit of all the people of the city.
Up in Maxwell Canyon, where Maxwell Park belongs, there is a feeling of calm peace and majestic greatness, all at once merging into a pleasant mood of nature that can be experienced in only a few places. The air and quiet sounds seem to actually leap everywhere from one towering cliff to another, always in motion, softly, or sometimes not so softly. One can stand alone and listen to the silence, occasionally broken by some rustle in the thicket, or the wind passing through junipers, rocks, and ravines on the hillside. When the sounds of people and their vehicles enter into the silence, it seems not so harsh or displeasing, even though the high walls capture all sound and can often be heard several thousand feet away. The air just seems purer, more refined, more able to receive and hold what passes through. And when the wind blows, it changes direction constantly, having no escape. Up the canyon, then back down, then across one way, then another, changing almost instantly. One way, then another, and another, and another. like a great steed or stallion galloping from one end of its field to the other. And the sun seems to shine clearer. The clouds cast their patterns more playfully on the endless forms of Vermilion Rock, sheer cliffs and foliage-covered hillsides. When it rains, it seems that what is raining at Maxwell is just for Maxwell. The colors become deeper, more penetrating and fresher. The sounds, the smells, the feeling is that of Maxwell Canyon. The lightning flashes in the darkness and allows an instant glimpse of red walls all around. The thunder roars and the sound seems to seep into every crevice and crack of the countless rocks. When the moon is lit over Maxwell Canyon, there is a serene sight of pale overcast to everything, and one feels that all the moonbeams are being captured and held within its walls. A trickle of water, an occasional scampering squirrel, perhaps the dart of a deer now and then, Rocky Mountain bluebirds, oaks, cottonwoods, willows, lush in summer, brilliant in fall, silhouetted in winter, and the uncommon beauty of white on red when the snows arrive. Descriptions can go on, but Maxwell cannot be fully described. It must be experienced in its endless forms and moods. This is the setting and the scene for Maxwell Community Park, for it is to develop and become an enduring entity of all Maxwell, all of the Short Creek Valley, and the people who live there.
Some of the visiting family girls are going to sing for us. This is Yvonne, Eliza, Diana, Joanna, Priscilla, and Emma. I almost got it right.
Hey, son.
Jessup was born April 20th, 1910, at Millville, Utah, to Joseph S. Jessup and Martha Yates. Uncle Fred grew up in Cache Valley and graduated from South Cache High at Hiram in 1929. He was active in the church affairs, being the chorister in the mutual programs, war teacher, and various other duties. He came to Short Creek in 1935, one of the first to arrive, being invited by Uncle John Barlow. He has said many times that his work was to help Uncle Roy keep school as long as he was the teacher, and now his commitment is to do the same for Uncle Rowan. Uncle Fred has been devoted to the youth of the community since his arrival here. His experiences have touched virtually every person who has lived here. He is still devoted to the youth, some of which are now 70 years old. He has served as town clerk since the organization of Hilldale Town in 1963 until 1990, when we became a third-class city. Since that time, he has been an active member of the board. Uncle Fred has been a moving force in developing the water system, the sewer system, and every other development which we enjoy today, including the streets and roads, the medical center, the meeting house, the schools, the dairy, the farming operation, and anything else that we have. Our thanks and appreciation to Uncle Fred for all that he has done for us.
We'll now have a violin number with Baylita, Eva, Joellen, Phoebe, Mildred, Annie, and Louisa.
another one that everybody knows well and loves, Joseph I. Barlow Sr.
Joseph I. Barlow was born on August 28, 1927, in Millville, Utah, to John Y. Barlow and Martha Jessup Barlow. He was born in Grandpa Jessup's home in the same room where his mother was born 27 years earlier. His childhood was spent mostly in Salt Lake City until his family came to Short Creek in 1935. He was one of the boys who helped Uncle Isaac Carling raise dry land watermelons and corn by carrying water to the fields in buckets. When Uncle Isaac died in 1938, it was a very sad occasion for all the kids because they'd learned to love him so dearly. The family moved to the old Woolsey Ranch west of Cedar City in the fall of 1938. He finished out his grade school there. Uncle Roy would drive the children 15 miles to school each day. They moved back to Short Creek in 1943, and the next year Aunt Mattie died. Joe was married in January of 1945 at the age of 17. On November 8th of that year, he was inducted into the Army and took his basic training in Camp Roberts, California. After spending a few months in Massachusetts, he was shipped overseas to the Philippine Islands and then to Okinawa. Since he returned home in 1947, he has been a citizen of this community and has organized several businesses and has been an active member of the Hilldale Board for approximately 25 years, also serving as treasurer, park commissioner, and various other functions. He has managed several successful fundraisers to help develop Maxwell Park. He was also appointed to the original board of the Twin City Waterworks Company and has served in that capacity for some 20 years. Joe is an instructor in the Barlow University and is currently teaching a class in communication and team building. He's a vital member of the City Council. And Uncle Joe, we also wish to thank you for these many years of devoted service.
Thank you all, too. We're now going to hear from the low-down Lazy Bee Wranglers. I ran onto these guys about 16 years ago. And, I don't think they want to be identified because they're afraid they might get run in. But we'll hear from them now.
As I walk down in the streets of the Rio, as I walk down in the Rio, I spied a young cowboy all wrapped in white linen, cold as the snow. Take me
Next, I don't think there's anybody quite like Joe S. Jessup. He's been a marvel to me for many, many years. We'd like Ruth to introduce Joe S. Jessup.
Joseph Smith Jessup, commonly referred to as Uncle Joe S., was born December 27, 1921 at Hawkins, Idaho, a little community approximately 20 miles west of Ermol, where his father and Earl Olson had a small dry farm. He was the son of Richard Seth Jessup, that's Uncle Rich, and Alveda Anderson. They moved back to Millville before Joe was old enough to remember, and then to Salt Lake City, where he spent most of his childhood years in the Mill Creek area by the old Sherman School. He says he could sling a rock from their house to the school building. He didn't say he did. He just said he could have. In 1935, he came to Short Creek with his father's family. He was about 14 years old at that time. His first job was helping his father cut timber for the old sawmill east of Zion Canyon. The first trip he made here, he came with Leonard Black, and he says that when they stopped here, the first thing he said was, "Where is it?" Joe has worked in this area ever since his arrival in 1935, with the exception of a little time at New Harmony and the Woolsey Ranch west of Cedar City. In 1943, he was drafted into the Army of the United States and became a trained demolition expert for the infantry. He was an instructor at the Officers Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia, and taught the officers the skills of using explosives, 30 caliber machine guns, and 57 caliber anti-tank guns. One of the young officers was a Senate lieutenant named Clyde Macker. He was shipped overseas and stopped briefly at Saipan, and then on to Japan to the island of Honshu. His duties were to perform demolition of the Japanese gun replacements on the whole island. When he came home from the service, he was the timber cutter for the United Effort Sawmill at Mile and a Half, out on the Kaibab Mountain south of Jacob Lake. In 1963, Hilldale Town was incorporated, and Joe has served on the town board for these many years. He has had a part in the development of practically every well that's been drilled here. He's had a great love for this beautiful valley, and he loves the soil. He's been associated with the Soil Conservation Service for many years. He has also been the main moving force in the flood control projects and practically every development that has been accomplished. Our compliments and appreciation to Joe S. and his Uncle Rich type of integrity.
We'll next hear from Joseph S. Jessup III.
My father often, the junk box. My father often used to say, "My boy, don't throw used things away. You'll find a use for them someday." So in a box he stored up things, bent nails, old washers, pipes and rings, and nuts and bolts and rusty springs. Despite each blemish and each flaw, a use for everything we saw. The thing's material just was law. And often when he'd work to do, he'd search the junk box through and through, and found old stuff as good as new. And I have often thought since then that Father did the same with men. He knew he'd need their help again. Seems to me he understood that men as well as iron and wood may broken be and still be good. Despite the faults that he'd display, he never threw a man away, but kept him for another day. Though bent and twisted, weak of will, and full of flaws and lacking skill, some service each can render still.
If there was anybody like Joe S. Jessup, it would be Dan C. Jessup. And Dan has been about as dedicated as a person could be, and I'm sure there's many people that remember him in hauling the garbage away for the town single-handed, and all the street work he did and has done, and his promptness. I'm sure everybody knows Dan for his promptness in anywhere he's involved. We'd like Ruth to introduce Dan C. Jessup.
Dan Calvin Jessup was born December 6, 1925 at Salt Lake City, Utah. Dan spent his childhood in the Salt Lake area and came to Short Creek in 1935 with his father, Richard S. Jessup. At 9 years of age, he went to help at the sawmill above Zion. Dan has been around heavy equipment all his adult life and learned to operate nearly any kind of machinery. As a cat skinner or bulldozer operator, he was the best and had many experiences too numerous. On the 14th of March, 1944, he was drafted into the United States Army. This was 1 week after the 1944 raid. He went to Shepherd Field, Texas for basic training, and then went to Madison, Wisconsin to radio school. From there to Chinook Field, Illinois to take training in electronics. From there he went to Boca Raton Air Base in Florida, where he learned radar navigation and bombardment. The rest of his time in the Army, he spent at Big Field in Texas as a radar inspector for the equipment in the B-29 plane. He came home on the 30th of November, 1945. Dan has been involved in virtually all the water, sewer, and road development projects here in the Short Creek Valley since his arrival here. He has been a hard worker and devoted to the building up of our community since his appointment to the first board of Hilldale Town in 1963. Our thanks to
Ruth?
Dan.
I think we have a motion from the board. I hate to interrupt you.
I would like to make a motion that we give Dan special recognition for his faithfulness.
The motion has been made that we make a special recognition of Dan for his faithfulness. It's been seconded. Everybody agreed. We have a special recognition today. He doesn't know about this, by the way. We'd like to present this special plaque to Dan. It says, "Special recognition to Dan C. Jessup for the many years of tireless service to Hilldale City and all citizens of the community as the most punctual city councilman and the single-handed manpower for street maintenance and solid waste management and for numerous other projects and works. With the deepest appreciation from the people of Hilldale City, May 22nd, 1992. Dan.
Thanks to my fellow board members and to all of you. It's been a pleasure. I hope it'll continue the pleasure for many years. My part on the program will be an original poem written and presented by Dorothy Jessup.
Dan, just a second. There's more. Dan, there's more. Dorothy will have to wait for just 1 minute.
I thought that was enough.
As part of this recognition, we would like to include this gift of a chime wall clock. It has a plaque on it also that says, "Presented to Dan C. Jessup for endless hours of community service, Hilldale City, May 22nd, 1992.
my husband's charge to me rings special to my soul and sets my senses planning how to reach and hold that goal. It's so easy to be cheerful, pleasant, kind, and sweet when no ripples mar the water and life's on an even beat. But when someone's discontented, overworked, or feeling bad, Keep Sweet must come to memory if the heart continues glad. Keep sweet. When others' faults I see or have thought to criticize, I must remember charity. That blessed float we prize controls my tongue, grants me peace, while storms may rage without. Faith and patience thus increase. Keep Sweet will leave no doubt. Keep Sweet. This is my guard and shield that lets no anger in my heart and keeps me safe from jealousy so I can do my part. It protects from selfishness, lets no sarcasm in, and when I keep it well in place, I can be free from sin. Keep Sweet is counting blessings. Father loves our gratitude. Keeping sweet is being humble and a gentle attitude. Living the laws we're given in a pure and gracious sense, while growing in the power of faith through perfect obedience. The daily charge is given, then it makes my day complete when each effort is successful and I really do keep sweet.
Finally, on the council, we would like to introduce Harold B. Piney. I'd like to just say one short word that probably says it all. We have been involved in some housing projects for a number of years, and there are some people up in the state, in the Utah offices, that think Harold Piney is a miracle worker. And I don't think that there's a better building inspector or a person that knows the building trade any better than Harold does. He's done some wonderful things for the community. Ruth, let's hear about Harold B. Piney.
Harold Burnham Piney was born April 9, 1941, at Durango, Colorado, a son of Fred William Piney and Leora Burnham Piney. His early grade school years, as far as the 5th grade, was in Jerome, Idaho, and the balance of his school years were spent in Murray, Utah, where he graduated from high school in 1959. He moved to Short Creek on October 13, 1961, and has been a very active member of the building trades. He's been a member of the Hilldale Town Board since 1971, making 21 years. Harold has been our building inspector since 1972, and has been an important part of practically every major development in our city since that time. Our thanks and gratitude to Harold for his long and dedicated commitment to making our city a better place to live.
That's one half of Hilldale City. There's another half. There's people that do an awful lot of work in a variety of different ways. And we'd like to hear about them and hear from them. First of all, on the other table, Susan Jessup, the recorder for Hilldale. She has done a lot of work that a lot of people don't realize in just keeping the records and keeping all of the papers straight for the city. Ruth, let's hear about Susan Jessup.
Susan Johnson Jessup was born at Cedar City, Utah, April 26, 1948, a daughter of Carl W. Johnson and Eva Heaton Johnson. She lived at Moccasin, Arizona for the early part of her childhood and moved to Burl, Utah when she was in the 6th grade. She attended high school in Cedar City and moved to Hilldale in about 1965. Susan has served as our secretary for some 20 years or so and was appointed city recorder in April of 1990 when we changed to a third-class city. She has attended nearly every board meeting for the 20 or so years that she's been with us. Thanks and congratulations, Susan, for your loyal and dedicated service. We'll have a song from Three Little Girls. Fiona, Annie, and Eileen.
Pretty May flowers are blooming at last, and when they start blooming, they do it quite fast. They must be happy to push up their heads right out of the coldness and wintry beds. All of the flowers are merry, I know, for when the breeze passes, they dance to and fro. Pretty May flowers just laugh when they say, "Hello, Mr. Bluebird, the spring's here to stay."
Susan also, being the recorder, knows the history of Hilldale City, and I believe she has some information on that.
This is just a little short resume of the history of Hilldale Town. In 1963, the decision was made to incorporate Hilldale Town. We had the required number of citizens, and it was anticipated that incorporating would be an advantage for obtaining funding for various improvement projects and give opportunity to have local government rather than be governed entirely by the county. The first meeting of the Hilldale Town Board was held on May 6, 1963. J. Marion Hammond put the first $100 in the treasury and suggested the first board, which consisted of Lynn Cook, Sam Wilson, Orson Black, and Fred M. Jessup. At the first meeting, Lynn Cook was chosen as president of the board, and Fred Jessup was appointed town clerk. Later, it was learned that the town clerk could not also be a member of the board, so Dan Jessup was appointed a member in December of the same year. Uncle Fred continued to serve as town clerk. In February 1965, Joseph I. Barlow took Sam Wilson's place, and in January of 1968, Joseph S. Jessup took Uncle Elmer's place. Lawrence Stubbs served for a few years after Orson Black resigned. After Lawrence's death in 1972, Harold Piney was appointed to serve on the board. Richard Allred was called on to use his talents in helping with the growing finances in 1972. In November of 1985, David Zitting was elected mayor. And in May 1986, we obtained the valuable services of Ruth Barlow as secretary. In 1990, Hilldale Town was upgraded to a third-class city, and Fred Jessup resigned as town clerk to take a position on the new 5-member board. Susan Jessup was appointed city recorder. Some of the projects Hilldale Town has been successful in obtaining funding for include the Hilldale Town Office Building, the Widows Complex, the sewer system, road improvements, Maxwell Park improvements, the Hilldale Fire Station, and home improvement projects. Each member of the board has worked hard to improve our community, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve. We appreciate the support of our loyal citizens, the various department managers, and the fine working relationship we have with the town of Colorado City.
As you heard, Richard Allred has been involved with Hilldale for town or city for many years, and has been a very important part of that in his understanding of finances as a treasurer. And he has guided us through some pretty tough times as far as our finances are concerned. We'd like to hear about Richard Allred.
Richard Jeffs Allred was born August 7, 1944 in Salt Lake City, Utah, to Rowan C. Allred and Leona Jeffs. He lived in Mexico when he was about 3 years old and returned to Salt Lake City after being away about 7 months. When he was 11 years old, the Allred family scattered following the 1953 raid in Short Creek and the threats to imprison the Brethren in Salt Lake. From 1955 to 1962, he lived in Pocatello, Idaho, where he attended the 5th through the 12th grades, graduating from the Pocatello High School in 1962. That summer, Uncle Roy and Uncle Roland advised Aunt Leona to move her family back to Salt Lake City. Upon returning, Richard entered the University of Utah, majoring in accounting. In 1965, Uncle Roland asked him if he'd like to teach school in Short Creek at the academy. He was eager to do whatever the priesthood wanted him to do, and after graduating in 1966, he moved to Short Creek. He was an instructor at the academy for 18 years, from 1966 to 1984, and from 1985 to the present, he has taught at the Colorado City Unified School. Richard has won the hearts of the young and old alike with his dedication and devotion, as well as his sense of humor. In 1972, he was invited to be on the board of directors of Twin City Water Works Company, and has also worked very closely with Hilldale Town, serving as the treasurer and finance director. Our gratitude and appreciation to Richard for his sweet and dedicated ways and his great help in building our city.
Let's hear from Richard.
When they asked me to make a report, I thought about, here we are doing a financial report, and they've been real worried about paying the bills all these years. Why did they get somebody with the name of Allred to try and keep them in the black? Then Orson Black was on the board for a while, so that helped, I guess. When I first began assisting with the record keeping, we had a total budget for the year of $10,000. That would have paid about one person's moderate salary. In the 20 years, we've progressed now and have a total budget of about $250,000, of which about $100,000 is operating our sewer system. So basically, we operate the town on a $150,000 budget, and that takes care of all the departments that are involved. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with these people and the unity and the harmony that exists in accomplishing the tasks of serving you, the people of this community. They then asked to have the Allred family be represented in a part of the program. It left me so speechless, I knew what I would do.
creative, Nancy?
Juggling the book.
You notice whose lap he put it in after he rolled through. We'd next like to go into a little bit of information from our police department and our fire department. Is Lauren here from the police department? There he is. We'll hear from Lauren Cook about the police department.
The council wanted to see statistics of the last year of 1991. The Colorado City Police Department, which serves Colorado City and Hilldale. Colorado City, at the present time, has 4 full-time officers and 2 part-time officers. In the year of 1991, Colorado City logged 2,166 incidents. Of these incidents, there was 45 thefts, 113 animal complaints, 355 traffic stops, 38 traffic accidents, 11 shopliftings, 4 child abuse, 2 domestic disputes, 1 assault, 1 telephone threat, 3 arson, 2 reckless driving. That was an increase of 7% from the year before. 2.6% of all the cases were logged from midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning. And 73% of the cases was juveniles and 27% was adults. Thank you.
Next, from the fire department, Joe LaFoyle Jr.
I hope that all that glue that Richard was eating off them stamps isn't going to make these numbers go up. Last year we had 234 medical emergencies the fire department responded to, and 51 fire calls. Of those fire calls, 15 were structure fires, 12 brush fires, 13 dumpster fires, and 11 other fires. We had 9 search and rescues and 9 public service calls, for a total of 303 calls in 1991. And this year so far, as of yesterday, which was 117 total calls, 98 medical calls, 15 fire calls. We have 5 structure fires, 1 brush fire, 5 dumpster fires, 4 other fires, and 5 public service calls. And it was June the 13th last year when we have had as many calls as we've had so far this year. So we're a growing people. We need to try as hard as we can to be careful. This year we have a real wet spring, a lot of grass growth. The June grass is real tall. We're anticipating that it could be a very severe fire season if we're not real careful. So whenever you have trash to burn or need to have an outside fire, be sure and contact the fire department beforehand. Make sure that you don't burn on a windy day
make sure you have an area cleared around your fire so that we don't have any more accidents or fires than is absolutely necessary. Thank you.
I'd like to make the motion we hear from those Lazy Bee Wranglers once again.
The motion is made and seconded. Is everybody agreeable? Where are they?
Ride no pain, leave no death. I'm off a man, we'll throw the hood ahead. They key in the coolie, they water in the gulls. Their tails are all matted, their backs are all low. Ride around, little doggies, ride around them slow. The fiery and snuffy are raring to go. Oh, Bill Jump had a daughter and a son. One went to Denver, the other went home. One was killed in a poolroom fight, but we'll keep us singing from morning till night. Ride around, little doggies, ride around them slow. The fiery and snuffy are raring to go. When I die, take my saddle from the wall, cinch it on my pony and lead from the stall. Tie my bones in the saddle and head I face the west. We'll ride Mary that we love dead. Ride around, little doggies, ride around them slow. The fiery and snuffy are raring to go. Ride around, little doggies, ride around them slow. Fiery and snuffy are raring to go.
I still can't get off my mind Richard's part. I've seen him do that several times now, and each time's a little different. The only thing I have to say, Richard, is bring those scissors with you. We got some real budget cutting to do. Can we pay the, have you already paid the bill? Okay, the motion was made to pay the bills. And seconded, does everybody agree to that? As far as we've got money.
I'll write both checks.
Next, Moroni Barlow. A very important job for the whole community to take care of our wastewater system. And we'd like Ruth to tell us and introduce Moroni.
Moroni Jessup Barlow was born at Hilldale, Utah on June 9, 1954, a son of Joseph I. Barlow Sr. and Marion Broadbent Barlow. The first few years of his life he lived in hiding and returned to Short Creek in 1959. He spent his grade school years living in Hilldale and graduated from the Colorado City Academy. After his graduation, he worked with Alma Barlow in the plumbing and excavating business. Moroni has handled several different types of excavating equipment and is an excellent and safe operator. He has served faithfully as a supervisor on the boys crew for many summers. He has been on the staff as our wastewater treatment plant operator for 4 years and has attended various workshops to learn how to become more efficient in the management of our sewer system. Our thanks and gratitude to Moroni for all that he's done to make our lives better.
Somebody's going to introduce somebody, I hope. Well, first, Moroni has some statistics to give to us also. And I think he has a part to give too, is that right? Okay.
I thought you might like to know that in 1978, when the sewer system was installed, there was approximately 13 miles of main line installed at that time. And we now have currently in service 17.8 miles of main line through those pipes each day off of 395 residential hookups, 34 commercial hookups. We have 250,000 gallons of water per day, which is approximately 75 gallons per person per day of wasteful water. And that includes wash water, dishwater, toilet water. We are currently doing a study to upgrade the plant, and we have online this summer to install some more main line to the new homes that are not served at this time. Since this is the month of May, I've chosen as a tribute to the mothers, for Mother's Day, The Mother on the Sidewalk by Edgar A. Guest. The mother on the sidewalk, as the troops are marching by, is the mother of Old Glory that is waving in the sky. Men have fought to keep it splendid, men have died to keep it bright. But that flag was born of woman in her sufferings day and night. 'Tis her sacrifice has made it, and once more we ought to pray for the brave and loyal mother of the boy who goes away. There are days of grief before her, there are hours that she will weep. There are nights of anxious waiting when her fear will banish sleep. She has heard her country calling and has risen to the test and has placed upon the altar of the nation's need her best. And no man shall ever suffer in the turmoil of the fray the anguish of the mother of the boy who goes away. You may boast men's deeds of glory, you may tell their courage great, but to die is easier service than alone to sit and wait. And I hail the little mother with the tear-stained face and grave, who has given the flag a soldier. She's the bravest of the brave. And that banner we are proud of, with its red and blue and white, is a lasting, holy tribute to all mothers' love of right. And now we'd like to sing, the Sons of the Pioneer will sing for you, America the Beautiful. This is Philip, Edmund, Charles,
As everybody probably knows, Jeffrey Jessup has done a tremendous amount of work for many years in the surveying and the streets and the different utilities, in both surveying and putting some plans together. And for the most part, this has all been volunteer work. We'd like to hear about Jeffrey now.
Jeffrey Porter Jessup was born at Short Creek, Utah on July 11, 1946, a son of Edson P. Jessup and Leota Dockstader Jessup. He was born in the little house where Alvin Barlow's family now lives. Jeffrey started school at the age of 7 in Phoenix, Arizona, being one of the children who were kidnapped by the state of Arizona in the infamous raid of 1953. His mother and her children were the first to be released to come home. He attended school in Salt Lake City for several years and returned to Short Creek for the 7th and 8th grades, and then went on to graduate from the Colorado City Academy in 1965. He then attended the LDS Business College in Salt Lake City for 2 years and earned an associate degree in business and accounting. Jeffrey also spent 2 years in the military, being sent to a medical unit at Fort Lewis, Washington, returning back home in 1968. For the next 12 years, he worked at various jobs in Salt Lake City, among which was to assist Merrill Jessup in purchasing and delivering products for the General Supply Company. He returned to Short Creek in June of 1977 and has remained here ever since. He has been involved with the water and sewer projects as well as the roads and streets, and has spent unnumbered hours without pay to help our city grow and serve our people.
We'll hear from Jeffrey now.
Hilldale isn't really a very large city by land mass. We're about 2 5/8 miles across and about 3/4 mile high if you count the industrial park where most of the people live. When we get through including the annexation of the industrial park and some of the areas in the canyon, then it'll be just about 2 5/8 miles square. Inside that city we have 15.5 miles of streets, and 3.5 of those have got some pavement on them. We have about 25 street lights, and I think if we didn't have any vandals and still spent the money that we spend on street lights, there'd be more like 55 of them. Next month, we're going to be digging up about 1 3/4 miles of those streets to go some more improvement on our wastewater collection system, sewer in the Cedars area. And I'll invite my family to come out here and help me sing a song for you. There's Charles and Jared, and Sean, Ruth, Jeff Jr., Charlene, Sarah, Lily, Carl, and Benjamin.
People shape the eager, help the weak and curb the strong. None shall push aside another, none shall let another fall. March beside me, oh my brother, all for one and one for all.
One way or another, I've known Walter Steve for many years and considered him a very good friend. It just dawned on me it's good to have a good friend like a judge. And Walter looks like a judge. We'd like to hear about Walter Steve.
Walter K. Steed was born August 22, 1945, of Whitsoe, Utah, where his parents, Noel and Chloe Young Steed, and family operated a cattle ranch. Walter attended school in St. George except for 1 year in Kennewick, Washington, soon after the 1953 raid. The Steed family moved to Short Creek in 1961, where he attended the academy, taking 3 years in two, and graduating in 1964. He built a house at the Steed Ranch and worked there until 1980, when he went to work for Merrill Jessup, repairing flood damage in town. He was appointed Justice of the Peace for Hilldale Town in the summer of 1982. He has worked as a ranch foreman, truck and equipment operator, metal building assembly, shake mill operator, cooler pad manufacturer, and can do everything from plumbing and carpentry to installing irrigation systems and diplomacy to keep things working together. Walter is currently working in Tuba City for Jessico as superintendent of improvements at the main junction there. Judge Steed regularly attends conferences to meet the 30 hours annual training required for his position. He is known as the marrying judge, inasmuch as that accounts for a large percentage of his work as Justice Court Judge.
You want to introduce your family, Walter? There's microphones all over. Walter hasn't been here. He's been busy, but so he doesn't know what kind of arrangement we have here. You're sure welcome to come up and introduce them.
Have you ever heard or never knew that God will judge the judges too? We'll have a violin duet from Miriam and Benjamin, Turkey in the Straw and Little Brown Jug, and then a piano duet from Kayleen and Chloe, accompanied by Marilyn.
Thank you.
everybody's probably noticed that Knapp Jessup isn't here tonight. But Knapp has done a tremendous job for Hilldale. He has set up all of the computer operation, and he's still doing it. He told me today that he thought today he could have completed our records on the computer where we can use it as a financial tool. And there's a good chance he's still up there making sure he finishes that. Very dedicated and does a tremendous job for us. We'd like to hear about that.
Knapp Ezra Jessup was born at Hilldale, Utah on December 14, 1962. His father is Virgil White Jessup and his mother, Aunt May. Knapp has lived in the same home all of his life. His elementary school days were spent at the Colorado City School. He then attended the Colorado City Academy and graduated in 1980. He has been a right-hand man for Uncle Fred since his graduation and has become very valuable in the operation of the computer system and about anything else that Hilldale City does. He has been the meter reader for Garcane Power and has helped in the distribution of propane for Standard Supply for a number of years. He has also worked with his brother in the wiring of homes and other electrical business. Our thanks to Knapp for his willing and helpful ways in making our city better and a more pleasant place to live.
As you notice on our agenda, we have an item, a final item before adjournment, other business announcements and public comment that we leave open for anything that we feel appropriate to add or anybody else, either the board or anybody else adds. And I've seen Joe Barlow on the board enough that I can see a gleam in his eye when he's got a motion to make. I see that gleam now, so I'm sure he must have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, I would like to make a motion that Uncle Fred lead us in Give Me a Home in the Heart of the Mountains.
The motion is made that Uncle Fred lead us all in Give Me a Home in the Heart of the Mountains, and it's been seconded. Do we all agree? And I'm sure everybody in the audience here agrees. We'd love to have it.
Please, everybody sing.
Give me
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We'd like to have Joe S. Jessup dismiss us with a prayer.
Our Father in heaven, we humbly bow before you at the close of this entertainment. We're grateful for one another, for the opportunities that we share.